Yep. Ding, 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 let's go. So, it's really cool how sometimes I'll just play around with words, trying to make it sound meaningful or significant by just changing around some letters. One of the many that came this morning was using a phrase, what was it? Grasping at straws. And then I'm like, grasping at awe. And then I'm like, where can I conceptualize where that makes sense? So it's really cool. All of this is connecting where we can eventually, through intention and through, a fair amount of surrender to whatever this divinity thing is, we can eventually have ourselves programmed and primed for things that we see or for having life and its various stimulus and messages and things like that, how it can have something happen, like something could go on in our external or our internal, and we can be programmed, we can be primed to eventually, if you're not there already, to eventually see it for benefit, for growth, as a learning experience. It's just like making lemonade out of lemons, turning crap into gold, where we can get ourselves to a point where we're doing that with everything. We're just composting everything. Now, of course, things can be presented to us like from the get-go, and it's gold, and it's awesome, and that's awesome. But it's really cool to have situations where, maybe it's not like crap to start, but it's just something neutral. Like me making up this phrase, grasping at awes, where it can be something neutral. I'm just playing around with letters. Letters are just hieroglyphs that we give significance to. Letters, words, we're giving significance to them. They can be just completely neutral things in existence until we give them meaning. So, as a result, I take these letters, these words, I change them around a little bit, and then I get to change their meaning. And it's cool how, like I've discussed before, where it's like we're living intentionally, but we're also being lived. So essentially, we can intend and journey forth all we want, but there's a certain point where life happens. We get inspiration. We just have a gut feeling. We just have an instantaneous reaction. And that's life living us, where we didn't intend it. Dreams are a good example, where it's like, yeah, you can do intentions during the day and before bed and stuff like that, but for the most part, dreams are life living you, right? So there's that. So the fact that we are living this life and being lived simultaneously, not only is that awesome, the part that we can enact change towards through intention and just making moves, making things happen, we can redefine things to whatever extent we can. So, and then back to the whole changing the phrase and just seeing my inspiration part of me, just take it and run with it. It's really cool how, and this can happen in improvised music too, where you're playing and you may have thought you hit a wrong note, but then somebody else can either do a similar rhythm or a chord or a note that makes your note work. If you're in the jazz circle, Herbie Hancock talks about this, where he either hits a wrong note or a wrong chord, and then Miles Davis plays a note or a set of notes that makes Herbie Hancock's playing right. So we can do that in our lives, where we can play things out. Maybe our instantaneous reaction is, oh no, this is wrong. But we can program ourselves in due time, with enough quiet time for ourselves, giving ourselves our inner life, our heart and soul, to give it time and space priority. The more that we do that, the more that these wisdom mechanics, you can call them, become more and more prevalent. So yeah, we'll use that term, wisdom mechanics, where something can happen where you can change words around, or you can see something and then change it around in your mind, your emotions, your perception, so that it's more meaningful, or that it's more wholesome, or that it's more beneficial for you, because you have that ability. You have these wisdom mechanics about you. You have this intuition about you. Messages are coming forth for you all the time. And in our quiet times, when we are letting things settle, sitting, looking out the window, eyes open or closed, stimulus minimum, journaling, these times where we are slowly, sacredly dedicating this internal giving, this internal receiving, just letting it happen. Things are coming up. Whether or not it's intuition, whether or not it's a whirlwind of thoughts and emotions, it comes up. You can take it or leave it. And that's an honest invitation, where thoughts and emotions can come up. You can see them and then really latch onto them observationally, or journalingly, writingly. Something comes up and you can really just dive into it, sink your teeth into it. Or you can just let it pass, because there's plenty of benefit in that too, where it's like things are coming up and you're like, this is just stuff that just needs to come up and calm down and transcend. It's something that needs to, like, spread its wings, to throw up, to dance, like whatever analogy or symbolism or personification you want to give it. This is something that just needs to flail around and then transcend into something else, to transform into something else, to dissolve, to burn up, and then to be a phoenix rising from the ashes as a result of me just letting it do its thing, right? And this is all internal. So it can be bodily sensations, it can be internal visions, right? Where it's like stories coming up, thoughts, emotions, words, letters, symbols, anything and everything. But it's just coming up. There's a rising and a falling. There's an explosion, there's an implosion. There is, as a result, transcendence, right? Destruction and regrowth. Anything and everything in between. That's the inner work, right? In a nutshell. So, and what is all of this? These are emergences, clarifications, expansions, implosions, explosions, transcendences of the soul, and everything after. The soul and everything after. Where we can view it like a sphere, the core is the soul. The soul, the heart, soul, intuition, voice of God, your connection to God, the cosmos, the universe, your connection to that, the initial receiver is the core of the sphere. And then beyond that, well, if we're remaining non-physical, metaphysical, beyond that it's the mind, beyond that is the emotions, and then if we'll just talk about the main ones. So mind, emotions, and the word consciousness comes up where we can use consciousness and soul interchangeably, synonymously. You may disagree. That's you. But what we're concerning ourselves with here is practicality. Give yourself the mapping of your existence, of your I, your existence, and making it practical, like actionable, pragmatic. Like, give yourself the map, give yourself the key, the terms, and then live your life, right? So these videos are a good example where it's like, this is not how I act in my day-to-day, in my job with people. I'm not just heralding my truth. I do it to an extent with people who are also spiritual, religious, etc., worldly, existential, artful, creative. So yeah, these talks come up naturally, and that's really cool. But beyond that, it's kind of like, look, just do what you do, operate from the core, from the heart and soul, and what comes up naturally within the certain dynamic, within the certain environment, with the certain people, just be natural about it. Done deal. So, to go back to the spherical mapping, heart, soul is the core. The God's antenna, receiver, core. And then mind, emotions, and then we're at the physical. So now we're at the physical body. Now we're at immediate surroundings. Now we're at the surroundings that you find yourself in on a regular basis. And then, expanding beyond that, your neighborhood, your town, state, country, the earth, right? And then you could argue interweaving in and as all of that is the metaphysical morphic resonance field, right? That is blooming all of these things that we see as physical, and even the things that are barely physical, like what we can pick up with our five senses. The sixth sense, metaphysical. But picking up through the five senses, like sound and smell, essentially, where it's like, yeah, it's like physical, technically, I suppose, right? That really kind of like barely physical type of stuff. But the metaphysical, the the antimatter, so to speak. What's the other term? Just the energy, right? And, woo-woo or not, again, like, call it for what it is, sense what you can sense, take for what's real and true for you, and, I'm not saying, I'm just saying, but the more you get into the internal landscape of your life, the more these things just become true. It's just is what it is, right? I'm not here to argue. I'm not here to stand on my soapbox and to prove, to plead my case. You know what you know until you know more of what you have come to know, And then there's plenty that you don't know, and then there's plenty that you don't know that you don't know. Digging through the mystery and discovering. That's life. It's freaking awesome. So all of that and more. So just to get back to the topic at hand, which is essentially, look, you have these tools, you have these wisdom mechanics about you. You can rearrange the meaning. And this is not to live in a sort of delusion, but this is to live in a way that's real and also beneficial and healthy, where it's like things can happen in your life, in traffic, with people, at the grocery store, with your family, with your friends, at your workplace, and you can use these wisdom perception mechanics. There's an example where it's like, do you like the term wisdom mechanics? Cool. If not, call it something else. But this is just for the purpose of us landing somewhere, and you then in your life you can rearrange it to your liking, right? Very cool. So we'll call them, to make it a little more worldly and pragmatic, we'll call it perception mechanics. Okay? So these perception mechanics that you can tweak, that you can use to your greatest benefit, right? Now, yes, you're living and being lived, and while you're being lived, and these things are coming up spontaneously within you, then your intention can come forth afterwards, right? It can swoop right in, right? There's a, just for the sake of shock value and just for fun, you're a witness to a crime scene, and now you're gathering evidence, and now you're going to come to a conclusion, at least a short-term conclusion, at least a short-term perception map of benefit, where you can move forward in the world and say, okay, that was a little messy, but we cleaned it up, we taped off the scene, we got organized, we got things in a realm of understanding that makes more sense, that is more real and true and calming and beneficial. So now I can move forward, and I'm, in bits and pieces, and eventually over time gaining more wisdom out of it, because that's how I am programming, or have programmed myself to be. This is just my programming. I want to see something happened, something that's happening, gather information, make sense out of it, organize it, and play it to my greatest benefit, and extract wisdom from it, and live life in a more and more beneficial, wise, inspirational, awesome way. Very cool, right? Alright, we'll wrap it there. As I like to do at the end of videos, pay respects. Woo! Massive respect to you. Massive respect to me, to this life, all of these layers, all of these internal mechanics that we're using to our greatest benefit. Very, very cool. Very, very awesome. Massive respect to the physical and metaphysical layers that are keeping us alive. Food, air, water, shelter, people, places, and things that are helping us out. It's awesome. Much respect to all of that and everything in between, the metaphysical underpinnings, the energy that's sustaining us. It's beautiful. It's amazing. It's awesome. And the things like technology, call for what it is. There's plenty of benefit to be made, and it's a tool, like a hammer. You can build a shed, you can smack someone in the face with it. Use the tools wisely, and we'll do just fine. This is Mac 11. Catch you later.